All right, so my name is Lynn McEntee. I'm your host of Spotlight on Youth, and I'm very excited to be here today with two very, very lovely guests. I'll introduce them in a moment, but first I'd like to start out by talking about what Spotlight on Youth is about. Spotlight on Youth is about changing lives, one youth at a time. Youth for Change is dedicated to improving the quality of life for youth by enriching them with learning activities that are sustainable and networking, team building, skill sets, character building, body and balance and communication skills. A variety of other things that Youth for Change focuses on is educating and promoting cultural exchanges between businesses, community, and youth. We believe that all youth can embrace who they are and who we are, can define the future, and can change the world. I encourage you to reach out to Youth for Change and Spotlight on Youth if you have any ideas for a show. Very excited about any ideas that you may bring forward, and you can reach out to us at lynn@youthforchange.ca. Instagram, Youth for Change Canada, Facebook at Youth for Change Organization, Twitter, Youth for Change CA, and reach out for us on YouTube to catch some of our programming as well. There's a lot going on today, so we have two lovely guests, and I'd like to first introduce, we have Alexa Jovanovic, and she is the founder of iDesign, and we have another professional who is Stephanie McCoy, who is the founder of Bold, Blind, and Beautiful. I'll firstly start out with Alexa. We discussed that before kind of meeting with you today on who would go first, and Stephanie gave me the thumbs up to go ahead with introducing Alexa first. So I'm very excited to read the bio of Alexa, just to give you a sense of who she is and kind of open up our discussion for why I wanted to have these guests on today. Alexa Jovanovic is a marketing professional and fashion entrepreneur. She is passionate about creating social change through innovative design, has identified a trailblazer in inclusive fashion due to her academic research on fashion, visual impairments, and social stigma. Her creative application of intricate braille beadwork explores themes of disability, desire, and inclusion. She is actively involved in numerous blind and visually impaired communities around the world and is an advocate for braille literacy. Alexa's interest in inclusive design began while she was studying fashion communication at Ryerson University. And I'm just going to skip over to another part. Upon graduation, Alexa accepted full-time graphic design work with the Faculty of Communication and Design at Ryerson University. This allowed her to gain experience working in marketing, brand development, and art direction. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Alexa on today is this amazing, very, very cool business that I heard about is iDesign, and I wondered if perhaps we can introduce you now. Welcome, Alexa. Pleasure to have you. Pretty big bio. We have some other ones to introduce as well, but I thought we would just start out with you. You as a person, you as a professional, and all of the things that you're bringing to the table today. We had a chance to interview you before on another topic and with another group, and that was my draw, and I really wanted to have you for Spotlight on Youth because you are an entrepreneur, yes, and doing really very cool things. Could you tell our viewers about iDesign and what that's about?
Absolutely, Lynn. And thank you again for having me. It's a true honor. So with iDesign, as you mentioned, it originated as a research project while I was studying fashion at Ryerson University. But very quickly, we realized the real power of what we were doing and have since been able to transform it into a business, an emerging designer brand. And it's incredible. We've reached international recognition, and we're really, truly making a difference within the blind and visually impaired community on an international level. So what we do at iDesign is, you'll see on my shirt here, we add intricate beading to garments. And what's so unique about this is that all of that beading is actually fully legible braille. So this shirt that I'm wearing here, that braille reads, "Fashion is for everyone." And it's created using Swarovski crystal pearls and is also created in collaboration with the blind and visually impaired community. So we work really closely together to develop the different phrases that we'll be using on our garments, determine the different placements, and then also it's really important that all of this braille remains fully legible. So we work together with those different techniques, and then we also have introduced the sighted community into our co-design processes to really make sure that there's that additional aesthetic and fashion appeal to truly be able to create a product that can be worn by absolutely anyone. So that's a little summary of what we're doing, but there's way more we can dive into later on.
That's the very cool. As far as in, support for iDesign and getting that off the ground, could you tell us a little bit more about that? Yeah, that initiative.
Of course. So it was a research project, but very quickly there were some really key individuals within the community who noticed the potential and really encouraged me to pursue this into a full-time business. And so one of the key players in that role was actually Ryerson University. I had graduated from the program Fashion Communication, and as an alumni, they approached me and asked if I'd be interested in applying and being accepted into their incubator program called the Fashion Zone. And so that really quickly, in about a 2-month period, we went from just a research company or a research project with 2 prototypes to very quickly 4 different prototypes, an increased amount of support and individuals in the co-design process. And then 2 months later, we were on national television. We were doing inspirational talks and talking to different business people. And since then, that's really just escalated. So those first 2 big events happened at the end of January 2020. So we're just 1 year in, and to think about how much we've been able to kind of take on over this past year, the different support we've received, being able to actually go from prototype to pieces that can be purchased at our website. It's been an incredible year, and it's all because of the support we've received. So Ryerson has been a huge player, but everyone within the community, Bold Blind Beauty, who Stephanie, you'll mention soon, but American Foundation for the Blind, all of these really key players have acknowledged what we're doing, and we work together so closely to be able to bring this global message. So it's been great.
No, it's honestly energizing. The network is incredible, and it's really the circle of life. And I'm just hearing all this process. It's about time. It really is long overdue. And why was this never ever thought of before?
Exactly.
My goodness. I am excited to, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of take a moment. I know we can jump back and forth in conversation. Maybe this is a good time that you segued Stephanie, and I could introduce her a little bit.
Of course.
Thank you so much. And we'll kind of keep it informal as we go. It's my honor actually to introduce Stephanie McCoy. She's from Bold, Blind and Beauty. And I'd like to read a couple of things from Stephanie that she had sent in that spoke to me. And I thought, I'm not going to edit that at all. I love to read the whole thing, if that's okay. The one thing that sight loss has taught me is perception, much more profound than seeing. I may have lost my sight, but my clarity has increased exponentially. And for this, I am grateful. Stephanie McCoy is a businesswoman, style setter, blogger, and abilities crusader, committed to breaking the myth that blind people can't be fashionable. As a blind woman who loves style, Ms. McCoy is the founder of Bold Blind Beauty. Bold Blind Beauty is an online community that empowers blind and visually impaired women while connecting sighted and blind people. The mission of Bold Blind Beauty is to improve humanity by changing the way we perceive one another. Abby, the site's fashion icon and Miss McCoy's alter ego, sustains the mission with her witty commentary and branded merch on Abby's Swag shop. Kindness, compassion, and a deep desire for social justice are central to who I am. These are my values. I founded Bold Blind Beauty out of personal need for empowerment, but I wanted to share with others. After an amazing stint at one of the big 4 accounting firms, I was finally able to pursue my passion for becoming an abilities crusader. The one thing sight loss has taught me is perception is much more profound than seeing. I may have lost my sight, but my clarity has increased exponentially, and for this I am grateful. A repeat. Thank you so much. I'm just like, wow, it's just, that really stuck out to me, that quote. So I wondered if, Stephanie, if you could just tell us right away what Bold, Blind and Beautiful is about, what maybe your link is to Alexa, as well as the partnership in the communities.
Sure. I hope that I'll be able to remember all of that. If I stray off topic, please rein me back in. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, got it.
It is such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love the opportunity to share my message with anybody who cares to listen. As a blind woman who had to learn to adapt to my changing situation, I was born sighted. I was sighted most of my life. And then when I reached my mid-40s, out of the blue, it just happened. And it wasn't something that happened immediately. It was a several-year process, but through that process, as each level of sight decreased, I felt like I was losing more and more control of my life. And when it got to the point where I had to use the white cane, I felt very unsure of myself and very conflicted because I look like I can see. That's obvious to a lot of people, even myself. However, I can't. It's a physical thing. I have some residual sight. I am able to recognize people's faces and things in a general direction, like we were talking about before we started this call. I have my camera pointed in a specific direction. I know where to look, but I really can't see the screen. Okay. One of the things I noticed when I was using my cane was people couldn't connect someone who was dressed professionally, someone who wore makeup, with using a white cane. And it helped me to realize that there had to be a discussion around this. Everybody wants to be beautiful, or everyone wants to feel beautiful, and everyone should be allowed to feel that beauty. I've always been a believer in beauty resides on the inside. It's not so much on the outside. However, when I began losing my sight, I felt judgment, and I felt just a lot of sort of misperceptions were placed upon me, labels placed upon me that I rejected, but they were still out there, and I felt they needed to be addressed. And when I was asked to speak to a group of blind women about how I put on my makeup, that was when I realized this is a need. You know, we need to help these women embrace their beauty, become empowered, and embrace their blindness. I'm not afraid to claim that I am blind, that I can't see, because I think it opens up the door to a greater discussion about what blindness is. And the idea of blindness and beauty and how we can tie those things together. And not just blindness, but people with disabilities and beauty and what that looks like. We need to change our thinking, and that's why Bold Blind Beauty believes that the way we do this is, number one, by showing up. So just by being here on your program, by working with people like Alexa, who is so wonderful, and I love that she has created products and a message that allows people like me to feel so beautiful. I have one of her shirts and her mask, her face mask, with the braille beading, and it's just beautiful, and it makes me feel beautiful. And I'm so proud to represent the community. I hope that answers your question. I feel like I went all around it.
That was phenomenal. I'll just say on my end, Stephanie, it's amazing hearing you speak. I get re-inspired every single time. We've known each other for a few years now, but really every time that you speak and every time we get to talk to each other, I'm just reminded so much about the importance of what we're doing. I'm so grateful for your support and everything that you stand for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm just so happy to be here with you today and so inspired. I actually really didn't even know where to begin, because it's such an amazing opportunity here. And I think that this could just go on, this conversation, because it is endless. It's just shining light on this moment is so important. Alexa, you speak of Stephanie in that way, and I wondered if perhaps, Stephanie, is this a good time to talk about your guiding principles for Bold, Blind, and Beauty?
Sure.
That really spoke to me. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Bold Blind Beauty was designed to empower blind women as well as connect sighted and blind people, because I felt that if I just spoke to the blind community, that would be sort of the silo approach. And it's really not addressing this wider issue of helping the greater public understand that blind people are just like everybody else. We have the same wants, desires, needs as everybody else. So this year, and actually throughout the year since I started Bold Blind Beauty, the three key elements that kept coming to my mind was air. Air, the word air, A-I-R. We all need air to survive. We all need air to breathe. But for people with disabilities, we need air to survive and to thrive. And air in our case represents accessibility. It represents inclusion. and it represents representation. And I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional because it's so important, especially for our young people, to see themselves in every area of life. It's just so critical. And that's why I have to do what I do to help them understand that they are valued, they are worthy. All of us are. And if there's just one little thing that I can do, if I could change one person's mind, then it's worth it.
I'm just blown away by your guiding principles, and they're in turn the company's guiding principles. I feel your heart and your conveying of your message, and I think that this is an opportunity for people to jump on board here, to just have this morph as we go, and just really perhaps make an impact as you both are doing. You speaking from your heart, Stephanie, is just so important to our communities moving forward, learning and growing for the unknown, for things that people don't even know and maybe sometimes are uncomfortable to speak about, but to making it a very valid area to discuss. And it's okay if people don't know how and don't know where to start, but this is a great opportunity for these initiatives that we're doing. Could you highlight, if you're comfortable, a little bit more about those guiding principles, because they really are a foundation for you moving forward? You mentioned that, yes, but how do you, for people that work for you, how do you instill that?
We instill it, I believe, in everything that we do. The messages that we put out on social media, in our articles, and I'm so glad, so happy to announce that this year Bold Blonde Beauty has acquired 3 new contributors who are going to talk about a host of different things that we've not previously discussed on Bold Blonde Beauty. So I'm very excited about that. We just want to really just change as okay. There's so much going on in my head right now.
Awesome. I love it.
It's hard to, bring it down to one single thing. But as a person, a woman of color, a woman who is over 50, a woman who has had to live her life breaking barriers, and I never allowed the labels that people placed upon me. I've never allowed myself to really accept that, but that doesn't negate the fact that it can be hurtful. When people say things to me or don't accept me because of who I am, I know what that's like on a personal, deep level. So I want to help other people to feel comfortable within their own skin, and especially people with disabilities. I've been a lifelong abilities crusader, only I didn't know it because I thought that I needed to go to school for it. I thought I needed fancy letters after my name. I thought that I needed all these credentials, but really all I needed was a voice. So once I learned that that's what I needed, and I needed to develop a game plan on how I was going to use my voice, then that's what helped me get to where I'm at right now. My mom had acquired a disability in her 50s. She was denied disability assistance 3 times. And for people who aren't familiar with our system and how it works in the United States, once you're denied that 3rd time, that's usually it, that you're done. I remember, I will never forget, I went to her apartment after she was denied that 3rd time, and I rode home and I was crying. I was so angry and hurt and I just didn't know what to do. I felt so helpless. And so what I did, I channeled that anger into a plan. I developed a plan. And I decided I was going to write a letter, and I was going to write a letter to the Social Security Administration. And I was going to take it further and copy all of my representatives. What I did was I invited them into the life of my mother and what would happen when they would knock on her door, how they would hear her struggling to get out of her chair to get to the door. Her whole body pulled to the side, her head almost touched the floor. this is how her disability affected her. And yet they were saying that she was able to work as a waitress, as a waitress. And so I invited them into her life, and I wrote these letters, and one senator in Pennsylvania, I'll never forget, Arlen Specter, was very crucial in helping get my mom the disability that she needed. And it took one person, me, and I never knew that I could do it. But once I outlined everything, I did tons of research. I love learning. And I presented the case. They couldn't ignore it. I had to do the same thing for my son, who is grown now, but he has ADHD. And when he was in school, just all sorts of issues that I had to deal with. He never finished kindergarten. He was kicked out. He was moved from daycare to daycare because of his behavioral issues. And once he got to school, that became a problem. So once again, I had to educate myself on the education system and become his advocate. And so, yeah, I've been a lifelong abilities crusader. So I know a little bit about what it's like to be excluded. I understand how important it is to be included. And I understand accessibility. The way I look at accessibility is simply a locked door with a lock and a key. We have the key to open that door. And that's what we need to do to allow people who are blind, who are low vision, people who are wheelchair users, people who have a wide range of disabilities. We need to make life accessible for them. And it's not a thing of we're doing them a favor or something like that. It's not like that. It's a basic human right. So yes, accessibility, inclusion, representation. We are in the world, within the United States, 1 in 4 people, 1 in 4 adults, 61 million adults in the United States live with some form of disability. Yet, when you look at TV or you look at other media, there's only a very small number of us represented. That's shameful, and it has to change.
To that point, Stephanie, I know we've discussed that before, where in fashion, even when you're talking about inclusion and companies are actively looking to include people, individuals with disability are still excluded. Even when the conversation is completely surrounded about inclusion, there's still that one group that is never included. And so, I mean, I think there is so much that we can be doing here. And to hear what you're saying, there's so much power and there's so much potential. We already have the means to be able to do it. It's just really getting society on board, changing those perceptions and understanding that these are basic human rights and that there is so much more that can be done. It's just a matter of getting those people to actually agree and really take this on.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right, Alexa. And people like you who are developing companies that meet the needs of people with disabilities, you're helping to spread that message. And that's why the work you do is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And like you were saying, like making sure that we aren't siloed in any way. Like this isn't a company that's just for individuals with disabilities. At the very base of it, it's a company that's for everyone, because that's how you change those perceptions. That's how you fix this representation. That's how you truly include people. It's not enough to create fashion forward projects or products that are just for a particular segment. It has to be for everyone. Otherwise, we still have that ongoing problem where great individuals with visual impairments or disabilities of other sorts are able to feel great in their clothes. But if they're still so visually misrepresented in the rest of the community, if we're not just viewed all as people, then we're still not doing that correct job. So really there's so much that has to be done, and at the very base of this, being able to just properly educate people is so important.
Yeah,
that's what it really comes down to, is that lack of education and lack of real understanding as to the importance of what it is that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have said that any better.
It really is a national responsibility, whether we're in Canada, the United States, any part of the world. We are obligated to have a national response to it, especially in today's times. There's no excuse for not having having what we're talking about, accessibility, especially, and it starts very young, as we're talking about coming from the education field as well. That very much so, all of the things that you had mentioned, Stephanie, in terms of even your son, for that matter, it's, again, starting very young. How can we address those needs? How do we educate with positive wording, positive initiatives, and taking away negative connotations, right? For these.
Oh my God. Can I just stop you right there? I listened to Brene Brown's most recent Unlocking Us episode where she talked about, oh gosh, what was the word? It was about accountability. It was about dehumanization. And she was talking about the importance of language, the importance of words, and the importance of images. And what you said right there is so key. And it begins when they're very, very young. Children aren't born discriminatory. They have no idea what that is until we teach them. They learn by watching us. So, you know, it helps for us. We can help our children. We can create a better world by helping our children to understand that people are people. And I saw a great quote on Instagram that talked about a child with limb difference and the parent, or another child who didn't have a disability, and you know that interchange. And the parent said, you know, instead of saying don't look or don't speak, how about saying hello? How about let's just start by being kind and treating one another with respect and being considerate of other people's feelings and realizing that this person is a human being, you know, just like myself. We may look different, we may live a different experience, but we're still equally human beings.
And for all of us to be valued and all productive contributors, validated contributors, it's necessary. It builds the resources of our communities. It builds upon that, the richness of it. We are devaluing ourselves as communities if we don't include those components at a very, very young age, because we're really speaking, as you said, to the humanity, the human touch of it all.
Right.
Yeah. So speaking to the humanity of things in terms of the human touch and beginning at the beginning stages of life, the necessity of that is so very important. I wondered then if you could speak to how you sort of penetrate the system, if you will, you know, in terms of re-educating people, not only with yourself as a mother, but as a professional in the community.
Yeah. The way I approach it is one person at a time. You know, it's just as simple as that. I don't think any of us as individuals, as one single individual, can just change the whole world. I mean, there are some people who have, but I don't think I can. But what I can do is talk to one person at a time, which is one of the reasons why I created Bold Blind Beauty, because I felt that if I could reach just one person, and I've reached more than one, I can say, because I've had people reach out to me and tell me, you know, hey, it's because of you and because of something you wrote that allowed me to change the way I view my cane even, you know, because there's a lot of stigma around the white cane. And so if I can say something that can inspire somebody to pick that tool up that is going to give them the independence that they need, then, hey, I've done my job. You know, I feel good about that.
To what you were just saying there, Steph, same with the Braille, so much stigma to actually learning, but then going back to the education system too, where there are just such minimal resources to actually being able to learn Braille, despite all of the benefits of being able to actually learn Braille. And so that was one of the reasons too why all of the beading that we have on our garments, it's using uncontracted Braille. So every single letter is represented by one character here. So it's a much lower barrier to entry to be able to actually start casually learning what these phrases are. but then being able to create them using Swarovski crystal pearls. So then we have those connotations of beauty and desire. So taking those stigmas away from Braille and really showing the beauty, which is exactly what bold blind beauty is all about. So I completely understand where you're coming from. And we've received similar messages too, saying how inspirational it's been, how there have been a couple of people who have mentioned that they've been re-inspired to actually learn Braille. So the power of being able to create these positive messages around these predominantly stigmatized items, it's so important. There really is so much that can be done. It's incredible. And I've got to say the same thing. I originally met Stephanie through Bold Blind Beauty when I was doing all of my research. She was one of the very first people that I connected with. And it's been an incredible relationship since, reading all of your blogs from the other contributors as well, just really being fully embraced by the community. It's been amazing how much you can learn, and really how much that just can happen. I'm so incredibly grateful for everything that you've done.
And we'll pick up on the last comment and just, wow. You were saying about Stephanie? Yeah, you were saying a few things actually, and just in terms of, what's going on with the business, moving forward, and getting like-minded folk on board.
Right. And I believe the question was how to do that. And I said one person at a time, starting with one person at a time. I'm a goal-driven person. I always have been. I love goals, and I love spreadsheets. I love organization and all that kind of stuff. But when I think about goals, and I think about a task that is so huge, sometimes it can, just take your breath away. It's like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? How am I ever going to accomplish that? But what I found that works is sitting down and just breaking that down into smaller pieces. Like, how do you eat an elephant? I love that analogy, one bite at a time. That's how I approach advocacy. One person at a time, having conversation with one person at a time, and also allowing myself to be open and vulnerable. Not everybody that I talk to is going to be receptive to my message, and I understand that. I also understand that, I can't convince them to change their mind if I attack them or shame them or something like that. So I try not to do that. I try to remain open. I allow people to, have their opinions and, have an open discussion with them. But at the end of the day, for me, it really is about, depending on the situation, a one person at a time approach. Now, when I was back in the days when I was helping my son through school, and here in the U.S. for special education, he had to have an individualized education program. He was put on a IEP, that's what we call it. The first time I went to a meeting about this, I didn't know that that's what it was going to be. The teacher told me it was just going to be a meeting with her and the principal. But when I went in there, I'm sitting across a table of people, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, I can tell you that was the first and last time that happened, because the next time I went in there totally prepared. I always carried a notebook with me and a pen, and I would take notes always. But this time, I always documented what happened at each meeting. I would send letters after the meeting summarizing what was discussed and all of those types of things. So yeah, in that particular situation, it wasn't one person at a time, it was like a whole bunch of people. But I had to do that, for my son. For this particular situation, for Bold Blind Beauty and being online, because it's an online type of business, I realized when I'm talking to more than one person, sometimes though it feels sort of, one-sided, especially when I'm the one that's creating the content. Blogging is so hard, and sometimes it's like, if you don't get any responses or anything, it's like, geez, is anybody listening? Has anybody heard? What? But at the same time, because that content remains out there forever. I have people that will access previous content from years prior and tell me about it and say, I've never commented before, but I wanted to reach out to you to let you know that this particular piece really struck a chord in me.
Mhm.
So, I think that's the other thing we have to remember. Sometimes, especially online, sometimes we don't get that immediate gratification of knowing that our message has reached our potential audience, but being patient, remaining open, constantly, planning and refining the message, but being true, really being true to your message. I think that's the one thing that if you were to ask anybody about Bold Blind Beauty, about me as a representative of Bold Blind Beauty, they would tell you that I'm consistent. From the very beginning up until now, I have remained consistent, and I do that because that's who I am. What you see is what you get. I don't try to be something I'm not. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. And, sort of on a sidebar note, I'm noticing your apparel that you're wearing today. I know we had a conversation about that before
Yeah.
we started, but I wondered if you could highlight that, and then maybe we can link into in terms of your partnership together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So what I have on today is a red hoodie, and I chose red. It's in the Bold Blind Beauty's online shop. I chose red for Valentine's Day because it's coming up February 14th. This particular hoodie, all of my products they feature my fashion icon, Abby. Her name is Abigail, and it's spelled Abigale, and there is a story behind her name. She represents abilities, and Nightingale, the little brown bird, is just ordinary brown bird, but it's a beautiful voice. And again, it's one of those things of perceptions. Sometimes the way we look at things or what we're looking at may not necessarily be as we perceive it. So that's why it's important to be open. But Abby is on this hoodie, and beside it is a checklist of items that says handbags, heels, white cane, and then underneath my favorite phrase, ready to conquer, because for a blind woman, and we do wear heels, we wear makeup, we can look foxy, sexy, sassy, all of those things, but we aren't complete without our white cane or our guide dog. And some of us, believe it or not, use neither of those because depending on our level of sight loss, we may not need it to navigate, but that still does not negate the fact that we are blind or we fall on the blind spectrum. So the messages on Bold Blind Beauty are designed to be a little cheeky, a little fun, but yet empowering, so that it allows a person to feel beautiful, but also to proudly represent. My mug, which I'm really, really happy about, it's red on the inside and the handle. And it says, I hope you can see the Abby icon, there's 3 of them. And it says, blind chicks with attitude. And one of the things that I'm hoping to do, some of my products do have Braille on them, but it's not tactile. So I was hoping, being that Alexa and I do have this relationship, if maybe her or somebody else can help me to figure out a way to put some pretty bling on the Braille products, because I want everything on my site to be fully accessible to everybody. So it's not just blind and low vision people, but anyone, because honestly, let's face it, even for people who are sighted, to be able to experience something through the sense of touch, or the sense of smell, or the sense of hearing, all of our other senses, it just makes it that much more beautiful. So like Alexa said, when you think about inclusion, it's not that you're designing these things to exclude anybody, but you want to include everyone. Little known secret, a lot of people don't know or didn't know that Siri was actually designed for people who are blind and low vision, okay? But we all know today that that particular application is used by nearly everyone.
Yeah.
Sighted, blind, low vision, it doesn't matter. We all use these devices. So when you think about designing from an inclusion perspective, it benefits a broader audience.
And then thank you so much. And Alexa, I wonder if this is a good time for you to jump in and talk a little bit more about your products and how people can access them as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with what Steph's saying. Really, when you take in all abilities into consideration at the very beginning of the design process, you really do create an end product that's far superior, has a greater use and a greater audience that can benefit from them. Taking a note aside from fashion, there's actually a company called OXO, and I believe that they first created their products with the intention of being able to benefit individuals with arthritis. But now they're one of the leading culinary brands to be able to create products, and everyone's using them. And with the example of Siri as well. So it really is just being able to have an open mind and being able to work so closely with others is kind of the key of all products. And so what we were saying earlier, where how all of our products are designed through this co-design process. So we don't single-handedly create anything. We work very collaboratively on everything that we're doing in terms of the phrases, in terms of the types of garments. So when we first started this, we created a series of prototypes. There are about 4 or 5 completely different items. And that was really to test the perception and acceptance of what we were doing. So is it only t-shirts that are going to be primarily accepted? Is there a need for denim jackets or more sort of evening like styles? Are there certain color combinations? What are the types of phrases? So when we were starting these discussions, they primarily began with individuals from the blind and low vision community. We started within the Greater Toronto area. And a lot of our conversations were about fashion in the sense of function and daily routines of how do you first identify your clothing and choose what to wear, but then also having those conversations evolve into social stigmas and the perceptions of what it means to look and feel blind. And so to Steph's point of blind and low vision individuals being able to wear beautiful clothing and high heels while also having a white cane or a guide dog, it's really important to us to be able to really portray that important image of what it means to look blind, but then also not having those fashion forward items. There really just becomes a person and who that person is and how they want to be portrayed. Oftentimes when we're in discussions about individuals with disabilities, so many times it's that disability that is that main characteristic. It's the only thing that you see when you're talking to that person. And really, there's so much more to a person than their disability. And so this really is one of those pieces that allows you to really show who you are, show your values. And so when we were starting these conversations with individuals, what our garments first started were the Braille applications. They were meant to describe what the item was. So it was purely functional, but using the beading as the aesthetic that really provided that desire and that additional design element. So when we began, the denim jacket that I have in the background, actually, it's the most favorite, it's the most popular amongst everyone. We're working really hard to try to produce it. But so every line on that denim jacket describes exactly what it is. So that very first line, it says that it's an oversized denim jacket. That next category then starts to tell you about the color. So the types of wash that are created with the denim jacket. It starts to tell you then about the additional embellishment, so that there are these 7 silver stripes, that there's black braille beading created with Swarovski crystal pearls. But then it goes to tell you about how the garment's supposed to fit. So because it's oversized, it tells you that it's going to hit you below the hip, that it's meant to be a bit loose. Then it tells you that it can be machine washed, where it was manufactured, all this information that you would typically get on a garment tag. And so that's where this research started. But then as we were able to have these discussions with the blind and low vision community, those phrases then evolved. There then became this desire to have more empowering phrases or statements, pieces that were more cheeky. We didn't always need to know all of this information, But so that's where the evolution of the black t-shirt that I'm wearing came from. The phrase says fashion is for everyone. So very bold and simply put, that is the message that we're trying to put forward. So we have pieces that have that true functional value describing what it is, but then we have these other pieces that really just show messages of who we are. And that's a really big initiative that we're taking on this year in 2021. We've just released a new product on our website where all of the braille on the t-shirts is actually fully customizable. So up to 25 characters, you can choose your own braille phrase. And in that sense, you can wear your story, you can share your voice, and really be able to represent who you are in this way that is fully inclusive. We've worked really hard to make sure that all of the braille is fully legible. So that was a lot of the research that we were originally doing, was making sure that these beads weren't going to move at all, different techniques and fastening applications, because if any of the braille moves even just a few millimeters, it could potentially read as a completely different character. So that's the other thing. There is so much attention to detail here. And when that end user then receives this piece, whether or not they're sighted or low vision or can actually read braille, there's so much appreciation for what goes into creating these, and the power of being able to have that increased sense of touch, feeling the braille, and knowing how much independence that can provide to someone just really helps propel the entire message. And then a portion of all of our profits from the t-shirts also go back to different organizations that support blind and low vision individuals and research. So really, there's a whole process here where the community is involved in the brainstorming and the creation of these garments, but then also fully involved in the communications of what we're doing, pictured in all of our marketing materials. And now we're actually working really closely with the American Foundation for the Blind to find a way in which blind and low vision individuals can be involved in the actual manufacturing our garments. So to provide those additional job opportunities, to have the community be involved in the actual braille and the packaging of everything that we're doing, because really just we're trying to set a new global standard. There's so many times where individuals with disabilities are overlooked, whether that's fashion, consumerism as a whole, or even just the job opportunities. So we're really trying to show that with some additional effort and some real understanding of different people's needs and being able to adapt to those, the increased sort of workforce and abilities that you can provide to people. And so it's really important, and we've been able to do a lot of that with Steph and through Bold Blind Beauty. Some of the different people that we've been able to work with have actually been contributors of Bold Blind Beauty, and that's how we met. So one of the big marketing campaigns that we were able to do earlier in the year prior to COVID was actually with a model named Catherine Harrison, who identifies as being low vision. She's also a contributor for Bold Blind Beauty. She's a phenomenal writer. And so to what Steph was saying too, is if sometimes you don't get comments on those blogs or whatnot, I read all of those articles while I was doing my research in university, and I'm still reading them. These stories are incredible. And I've met so many amazing people who are now close friends and collaborators with iDesign as well through a platform like Bold Blind Beauty. And so it's been a really amazing experience. And to now, over this past year, being able to work with different fashion influencers and individuals in the sighted world, we're really starting to build that conversation to an international level, be able to get these major mainstream apparel companies on board to understand the importance of what we're doing. And so there's a lot that's going to happen, but that's sort of just the start of it. And it's been great.
Wow, that's amazing, so inspiring. Thank you, Alexa. I'm just going to jump over to Stephanie for a moment. Stephanie, if we could speak to sort of moving forward, these wonderful collaborations as it morphs, as it goes, the power of people in this regard, in collaborations. What do you see for yourself moving forward in terms of your group, but also working with others as well, such as iDesign?
Yeah, well, we're going to continue to feature numerous people within the community, within the blind and low vision community. Beyond Sight magazine is our magazine that's associated with Bold Blind Beauty, where we feature men in motion. So last year in 2020, being the catch all phrase for 2020 vision, we thought, oh, it'd be really cool to feature, guys on the site because we hadn't done that before. So we do. We're still going to feature them. We're going to continue featuring our women on the move, our blind beauties, which we call monthly beauties. It used to be blind beauty. Now it's monthly beauties. And then a cane enabled is actually a segment that features technology that is on the blind and low vision front, new and improved technologies, one of which I'm working with very closely. I'm very excited about, actually. I'm on their advisory board, is the Touchpad Pro assistive technology. So it's TPPAT, and they've actually had an Indiegogo campaign for a device called a Braille Doodle, which is a device to help children learn how to write Braille, but also it enables them to draw. So be able to create art that's tactile while learning how to write Braille is going to be a huge game changer for our blind and low vision children. So we're very excited about working with them and just seeing how the founder, his name is Daniel Lubiner, how his products are going to change the world, really. We're going to continue featuring guest contributors, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, we're going to do it. We're going to be launching a podcast at the end of this month, and it's totally new. It's something I've never done before, but we're really excited about it. And we'll be bringing on more guests to talk about the bold, the blind, the beauty, those three segments within those within the podcast. But like, for example, for January, for bold, we're going to talk about goals. So goals for 2021. For beauty, we'll probably talk about, perhaps fashion and beauty and makeup and things that are out there that are inclusive for, our community. Oh wait, no, that was blind. For beauty, we're actually going to have someone speak to health. So he's going to provide some health tips and tricks and things to help us get in shape for, this year. So we're going to continue to collaborate with other companies who are inclusion focused, who are accessibility focused, who want to increase representation. One of the things I've been dying to do is to create an Abby doll. As I said, on the website, Abby has a backstory. She's very accomplished, cartoon character, but she's very accomplished. But I would like to think that Abby represents all of us, and not just blind and low vision women, but I've had men tell me that they can see themselves in her. And I think we've created her with that sort of intention in mind so that anybody can see themselves in her. So to create a doll that is fashionable, who uses a white cane, for a young girl to be able to see herself in this character, I think is powerful. We currently don't have anything like that. And, what Abby represents is, she just represents all the things that can be achieved, if we want it badly enough, and again, it's about changing the perception. So just because we look at a person and we leap to these assumptions, these unconscious biases, that doesn't mean that that's who that person is. We have to learn their story. So I'm hoping that we can continue to introduce people to the world so that other people can learn their stories and perhaps give them the opportunities that, you know, they are willing to provide. As Alexa alluded to with the unemployment piece, here in the United States, the unemployment rate for people who are blind or low vision is approximately 70%, 70, 75%. That's just unacceptable, and it has to change. Look at me. You know, I can work on the computer, I can create a website, I can do all of these things, none of which I've done before. I am not, you know, like a web designer or anything like that. That's just not my skill set. But I took some online courses. I took a year out while I was still working at my company. I took a year to research blogging and building a site and how to incorporate all the things that I needed to incorporate to get it up and running. Is it easy? No, no. And it's constantly changing. So, you know, there's that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. And Alexa, sorry, doubling back on you and the vision. You were speaking about it before speaking to Stephanie just now. Do you want to add into that in terms of your future moving forward with iDesign?
Absolutely. So now, this past year was a real change for what we were doing. We accomplished so many different milestones, and a lot of that was finally taking our prototypes and really being able to transform those into products that are ready for purchase. And we had an incredible holiday season. We were overwhelmed by joy with how many people were really here to support us. So now in 2021, now that we've kind of built a really strong foundation, this entire year is going to be dedicated to collaborations and really being able to spread our message of inclusion and representation and accessibility and the importance of all of these aspects, and being able to do it on an international level. So we've had those increased collaborations with individuals on a global scale, but now it's really time to have these collaborations with really big name apparel companies and others, trailblazers within the industry, so we can make a real change. So that's our real goal for right now. And I'm not going to mention any specific names, but we've been having some really exciting conversations, and big collaborations are in the works. And so we're just excited to see where this comes. There is so much that can be done. And by being able to partner with these other companies that are mainstream and they already have this intense following and they have these production methods, there really is such an easier way to very quickly educate and sort of adapt everything that it is that we're doing. So there's a lot that can be done, and collaboration is a huge part of that, being able to share this story. And as Stephanie was mentioning earlier, even if you can just motivate one person, change one person's mind, and then they go and share this story and they go and share this story, that's a lot about how, or a lot of how we were able to build our current reputation. A lot of it has been word by mouth. And really, it's just when people are able to be a part of this and they fully understand the reasoning behind it, they become that much more inspired to actually create this change, and they realize the impact and how we have all these resources available. It's really just that final implementation process that needs to take place. And so collaboration is really the biggest thing, being able to share that message.
Would that be your words of wisdom then?
Collaboration?
Yeah.
I suppose. I mean, a lot of this came from the initial collaboration with Bold Blind Beauty. I'm pretty sure that Steph was one of the very first people that we partnered with.
Yeah.
Being able to work with Steph, she was the reason that we were able to meet the American Foundation for the Blind and build a strategic partnership with them. That relationship has then been further built onto some of their industry partners. So really, it's not being afraid to share your story, be authentic to who you are, and really just be kind to one another, understand who each other are, listen to people. You only build change by getting diverse perspective from diverse people. You really have to open your mind and be willing to just listen and adapt to what you're doing. And I think that would be the really big piece, is that we're all going through this together and we should all be able to do it on equal terms.
Oh, open up your mind and listen. That'll be great for our viewers. If they wanted to reach out to you, how would they get a hold of you?
So Instagram is the best platform. You can find us at iDesign, and so it's spelled AILLE design, and on our website as well, iDesign.com. With the pronunciation of that name, it's actually a common question as to how you actually pronounce it, because it's spelled more similar to ale, or sometimes people will call us Ali. They think my name is Ali, but really it comes from the French verb aller, which means to move forward. So really, in the end, this is the direction that the fashion industry needs to move forward into, and that people as a whole need to move forward into.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And Stephanie, words of wisdom. You've had many in there. If you want to leave viewers with some words of wisdom and how to get a hold of you.
Words of wisdom is just giving people the opportunity to be who they are, accepting them where they're at. You know, opening your mind, open your heart, listening, and just accepting, you know, without judgment.
And if
That's beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Everything has been beautiful today. I just really appreciate you taking the time. If someone wanted to get a hold of you, Stephanie?
Yes. So you can reach me on the website at boldblindbeauty.com or on my socials. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And those are at boldblindbeauty. And if you want to reach out to me specifically, I am on LinkedIn. Uh-oh.
I think we may have frozen for a second there.
I think we did.
Yeah. Do you want to, so if they wanted to reach you on LinkedIn as well?
Lynn, are you there?
I'm there. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Okay. We got, looks like, yeah, we got about another 7-8 minutes here, but
Yeah.
we can now, I think.
Okay. Here we go. Do we want to go back to Stephanie and the LinkedIn, how to reach you? Does that sound good? I think when we all have our mics on, yeah, I'm just going to mute my mic while you're talking.
Okay, McCoy, that's STEPHANAE, McCoy on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. I'm just so inspired by both of you today. I really feel like we could continue this conversation again and maybe reach out to you in the very near future for collaborations as you speak of. I'm really, I cannot thank you enough. My name is Lynn McEntee. I've been your host for Spotlight on Youth today, and we were talking about accessibility, inclusion, representation, and community. I wanted to thank Alexa Jovanovich from iDesign, but also Stephanie McCoy from Bold Blind Beauty for joining us and enlightening us on these wonderful initiatives in our communities. Thank you so much. Youth for Change is about making change in this world and stepping outside the box. Please reach out to us on social media at youthforchange.ca. And if you have any suggestions for any upcoming shows, Lynn at youthforchange.ca as well. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.